How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. We are going to. I'm not going to make any promises. I'm hoping to get a good chunk of this done, though. I'm not going to make any promises. I'm hoping to get a good chunk of this done, though. I am hearing echoes. I am hearing echoes. That is annoying. Stop. Okay. I went to grab a link on on another browser, or I went to grab the link to the stream to post it, and it was still open. I've been using I don't know if all y'all have heard of it, but a browser called Arc. I still use Chrome on. I'm completely distracted now. I still use Chrome on stream. I started to switch to Edge to see if that was different, at least on Windows, because then I could also get the same on my Android devices. But then my Mac, it was fine because I've mostly been doing work stuff on my Mac, so not having that tied in wasn't the end of the world. I think I actually might have gotten Edge eventually on that one. But then Arc came out finally on Windows, so then I was like, well, I'll try using it on Windows and Mac, but now I have it separate from Android. Kind of annoying. I don't mind it though, but some of the UX is definitely different than maybe the modern version. Well, I was to say classic browsers, but they're modern. I don't know. The other browsers do things differently or have different patterns than what Arc is trying out. And one of the things that Arc does is it has a favorites tab or like a favorites section, and they're just like continuously open. So if you click into, like I clicked into YouTube, grabbed a link, and then clicked back to monitor stream health, but that tab is like still open in the background. It's in some ways I really like it. In some ways I haven't quite caught on to that. Like that some of those pieces aren't quite intuitive to me. I'm slowly getting used to it, but there are occasionally times where I hear myself talking. Okay, so completely distracted. We started this last week, and it's sort of been a culmination of all the work that we've been doing on the stream for the past couple months. We created a to-do, or we created a template for system tray apps. So apps that are expected to continuously be running, but likely mostly running in the background in a system tray, or through shortcuts or whatever, have other ways to like bring it up, recall it, do the little things you need to do, and then send it back to background work. So the first thing that we were trying off of it was making a little to-do app, because I think that is going to be useful for myself when we're streaming. We can make a to-do list, and as I'm setting the stage at the beginning of the stream, we can write it down. So then as we're going, we can kind of check the boxes. A little bit of dopamine is always good. And I think it'll be helpful for y'all, especially as you jump in the middle of the stream, to get that context immediately. Stepping on the cat food. So we last week spun that up. We started pulling things in. We pulled in this React Spectrum, which is a library that's built on top of, I think it's built on top of React Aria. but it's a more Adobe design system implementation, whereas React Aria is more low level, expecting you to bring the styles or the design system. But I just want something that works and looks reasonable. And I like what React Aria has done and the team has been doing around this. So we're trying out React Spectrum. So I pulled in this and we were trying to wire it up to the store. Within Tauri, there's a plugin called Plugin Store, which is a thing that basically persists the state in the app. So we were trying to figure out how to best fit that into React land, as the store and many of the Tauri plugins expect to be async, async promise based, because it's firing off in an invoke call to the Rust side of things. So pretty much everything is a call, a communication call to the Rust side of things, which means much of it is something that you're going to need to await, which makes things interesting to get working within React, because that sort of puts you in a place where you need to use something that handles async, because we need bits and pieces to actually wrap this up, where we can't like handle the promises directly within the components. So we wrap this in a use effect. We then started working on our tabs and layouts. Here's the tabs, or the list that we were working on. Here's the tabs, a little tab component, and then little layout component, of which we do want to come back and double check this. I still need some like padding or something around it. But anyways, the main Tauri APIs that come from our template are wired up in here. We added in, and those are in the app API folder. We added in this store within our use Tauri hook as well. And this sets up the store and like sets initial state if it hasn't been. And then we are dumping that in a use state, which then ends up showing up in our React context. So all of that said, what we end up with is this. And this is the piece that I think I want to tackle first. We did use async with React use, because again, we kind of needed something to do this. We are dumping in store as a key value store. It seems that for the most part, we can dump any like JSON blob that we want. So I'm just doing a tabs that makes this handling in the store easier. And then we're basically just writing a blob of data which represents all these to-do lists to it. But we need to deal with this async, of which I pulled in the React use because that was a easy thing to kind of grab and get rolling with. But we noticed, I think right at the end of the stream last week, that is it in? Yeah, find it now. There are hooks. Where are the hooks? It might be in the stately. I think when I first saw React stately, I kind of presumed that was XState related. But it's in the vein of what React use is doing. but specifically build with the intention of like working with. So here's our async list. We can dump it into the picker, and there was also let's see, sorting, filtering, pre-selecting. Yeah, and there's like, I guess this is server-side filtering that's less useful for us specifically. This doesn't handle async. Okay, this is more of a map. So we could potentially use this to handle the, and I guess we could potentially push this into React context. Because what we're going to want to end up dealing with is, if we go back to React Spectrum and we go, we are using the list view component, right? In the list view component, list view, where are you? There we go. List view. We have basically an interactable list of items. And there's many of ways we can interact with it. One of which is the drag and drop, which I think is going to be valuable for what we're looking to do, because we can use that as a way to like prioritize and resort these. So here's like a reorderable list. Having that baked in, oh, chef's kiss. So this is kind of, I mean, maybe expecting isn't the right word, but it has some understanding that this list data will fit well within the expectation of use drag and drop, of which we can then drop it directly into the components. This is almost exactly what we need. So by using these hooks, we might be able to I'm guessing we might be able to just drag and drop, or excuse me, well, kind of drag and drop the drag and drop code. We will be able to use this drag and drop code directly. So is this a separate, I think this is a separate library, right? Yeah. So we're going to do npm add react. It's actually not under the Adobe namespace, which is kind of interesting, because I think, is React Aria under? Oh no, this isn't either. Okay. So now what we can do is, in our list view examples, this ends up overriding how to use the grid to this. Okay, I don't think we need bidirectional dragging. Okay, we don't really reorderable list. I mean, I think we're basically this. Okay. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Huh. I think pretty much what we need right now is this though. So we have a use list data, we have a draggable elements, and then the list view. So what's nice about examples like this is these aren't specifically tied to any data. It makes it very easy to copy and paste. but I feel like you're highly unlikely to want to use their default data here, in which case we need to somehow pipe data in. Which complicates this. Now we can't just drag and drop this. So we need to understand the APIs a little bit. The use list data sets an initial items. So let's go look at the React daily and these hooks. There's list data, of which we have an initial items, and then since the data is stored in React state, calling these methods to update the data automatically causes the component to re-render accordingly. Okay. So initial items, the items in the list, get, insert, append, prepend, remove, move. And a bunch of these methods end up, I'm presuming, when we go look at the drag and drop example again, I'm presuming most of these end up working sort of in tandem with that. But we need to load async. So I think use async list is likely where we're going to want to start out from. There's also use list state. There's not like a high level overview of each of these. So it's definitely not colored. It's not date and time. I think use list state, tab list state. I think we're looking more at lists. Tab list state might be something that we want to look into, since that's driving the tabs component. What is tree state? For tree-like components. See the use menu. Okay, let's look at use menu. Oh, React Aria has some hooks too. Oh, they have a lot of hooks. I don't think I've actually looked at all these hooks. Use checkbox, use date picker. All right, so it's do you see the docs for use menu in React Aria for an example of use tree state? So if we just search for use tree state, creates a menu state based on the incoming props. Okay. State for the trigger is managed by use menu trigger state. Okay, so it's using use tree state directly. It appears to be. Or you need to specifically wire it up this way. It's got that built-in expectation. So what's list state? State management for list-like components. Use list data. I think these are pretty close as far as the like high-level overview goes. Sorry, this one. For list-like components, building a collection of items from props and manages multiple selection state. But I think we care more about this because we want those methods specifically for drag and drop. Now, we need to deal with async still, right? So the it appears that use async list is where we're going to want to go, because this has the same interface. So if we go back and check, what we have wired up here is we're putting the Tauri APIs in the React context, which means that we get the setup store here in context. So when we're not actually doing anything specifically with React state, we're just using it as a function to get this key value store in a place where we can access it anywhere within our app. So it's not really handling the state management of things. So by using this use async list, we're not duplicating. So there's the store.get. I think that's going to end up wiring up pretty directly into this use async list. So do we have an example here? Use async lists takes is loading. Okay, those are the here load. Okay, so basically takes a load function. I don't really care about the initial list. So in reality, we end up basically doing this, which is, does it say anything about use list data? Okay. It does specifically say that all client-side updating methods supported by use list data are also supported by this one, which means we can use this, I think, as a drop-in replacement for or within their example. So we're gonna pull this in. We are going to, it is returning tabs. So that is actually something we need to think about, because it is a little bit in the vein of more of a tree list state. Tabs include a tab list which tracks which tab is currently selected. Okay. So I think data structure wise. So the idea is that we're going to have top level tabs. Each tab is going to be, the intent is to basically use this like a to-do list for the stream. I'm expecting each tab to basically be a stream. So we were dumping all of that data. In the that key value store, right? So I was expecting it to be high level tab then items. So if we're calling store.get, we're going to be getting basically nested data. We're going to have an object of which the keys are representing tabs, and then those tabs each have list data. But I guess, okay, so if we we're going to do this. Go over here for a minute, please. Thank you. I don't have it set to be draggable at the moment, so that complicates things a little bit. Right now what we have is we're loading all the tabs here. So by loading this content, it gives us a list of tabs, which makes sense. And then in here, we know what tab we're referring to in which we can do stuff with. So there's also we do need to load the list of tabs somehow. I suppose what I could do is if we have a list of tabs and then we have basically the tab data, we could, hi, what do you need? Come on, come say hi. Yeah, come in. Say hi. Meow. No. Try again today. So if we split these up and we think less in a tree and more of a bunch of collections, I guess we could do a tab list and then we could do like a data. Let's check out the plugin docs again for this, because the other bit that I do want to make sure we don't lose track of is that we need to manually save potentially. Okay, set. So anytime we set, anytime we change, we need to set. So we need to keep that in mind, which in the process of doing a set, okay. So if we're doing a get based off of some key, I think we kind of do, I don't think we want to do nesting quite as much. We can do a tab list. And then I think we do something like tab IDs or something like that. I think that's probably going to be the ticket. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to turn on the reset because we're going to be monkeying around a little bit with the data. Yeah, because right now I'm just doing items. So we're pulling tabs, and then we've got value.items. So if we have a tabs, the tab, if we consider the tab in, I guess in some ways too, I don't really need an ID. Because what's going to be nice about this, if we consider them as like separate pieces on interaction, we can save and handle them separately. But also that means we can have draggable collections, but I think we could potentially also do draggable. Tabs include a tab list which checks which tab is going to select and displays content associated with that. So state. If we, where's tabs? Tabs, here we go. What does it say about tabs in here? Content labeling, selection events, props, tab lists, props. It doesn't actually say anything about hooks in here or any way to manage the data. Tab list and tab panel accept item elements as children, each with a key prop. Because it would be nice to do draggable in here. Okay, I think we're gonna try it. If we have a top level, well, it's not really top level, but if we have a key called tabs, and then we could do something like data and then an ID, these tabs would then represent the title and the ID, but it's not going to have the content. So if we go something like this, stream one title, ID, we're going to presume that it's always going to be in some sort of like ID-ish form. And then what we'll do is, because now it's missing context, or not now it's missing the content rather. We have an async list. Let's pull that in, and that gives us list. What comes with it? Filter, get item, insert. And what's interesting too is we can listen to, so here's loading state. We can listen to events in this too. So when if we do a drag or an add or a change, I think we can listen to events and then immediately update our store with the updated data. I think that pattern is going to end up being really valuable. So this is going to be tabs. We'll worry about the tabs first, and we're going to then, we need to deal with the content. So tabs, I'm not going to worry about that. I think we move this, whoop, daisies. Other computer. Shortcut from the other computer. This one is what I meant to do. We have an async load. If store isn't there, we're just going to return an empty array. We're going to grab the tabs. We didn't rename those, right? Yep. So then if there's no tabs, we have no items. Do we adjust this value? I don't know that it actually has to specifically be value. I think we go like this, we go like this. Then that will allow us to do this. And we can get rid of, there's a signal. I don't think store.get actually handles the signal in any way, so I don't think we need to worry about the signal. And that means we can get rid of this. Async, await, value. There's no items anymore. There we go. Promise, any is not assignable to type async list load function. Unknown and string. So value needs to be string. But it's not really, because in this case, what we've got is we got an ID and we got a title. So what is the data expectation of use async list? Does this? No, this doesn't really handle events or anything either. So load. Adding support for async loading, pagination, sorting, and filtering. Okay. Filtering, pre-selecting, client set updates. So it takes two generics, T and C, so options. Those are the options, okay. Initial selected keys, initial sort descriptor, function that returns a unique key for an item object. I don't know if we need that. So what's async list data? Loading state items. Items is going to be T. Okay. Doesn't actually say anything about like what. List items, item name. Okay. We're going to have ID string. Oh, hi, kitty. And title. Title string. Okay. Don't be thinking about biting my cords. I know you. Tabs from store. So this is going to end up giving us an array of objects that have an ID and a title. And why is this complaining? The expected types comes from property load. Promise is not assignable to type. Promise this. Property items is missing in type. So it must be expecting it in something like this. Items. Okay, Kitty, you are not helping me out here with ergonomics. So this would then give us items, which then has an array. So how does it like that? Never is missing the items property. What? Property items is missing in type. So it's saying that we're passing never or this. Because it can be null. Is there... Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to say type tab list equals this. No. Stop. If you want the privilege of sitting up here, kitty, you need to not bite my cords. I see you. I see you. Don't be thinking that you're being sneaky here. Come on, let's go down. Let's go down. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna then say this and tab. Oh, we're gonna call this tab list item since it's specifically an item. So then we can do this and this. So now we should not get an ever, right? Ah. All right. Type tab list equals this. I see what I'm doing now. This is what I meant to do because we wanted to always have an items property because it's expecting items. There we go. Okay. So we can get rid of use async. And whenever we end up updating. All right. All right. So now we should be getting the tabs. We will open up this. I've got it open on the side here. We can give that a refresh. We're going to get errors because we haven't rewired up these pieces yet. So tabs is going to have, here we see all of the use async list API methods. And we care about is loading. So tabs, so if tabs dot is loading, and if tabs, I guess that's probably fine. So now we need to look at the data. So that'd be items, I presume. So tabs takes a content. So we're gonna have to think about this just a little bit because what we get here now is a list of, so I guess in this case we have an empty array. But we're gonna have something like tabs.items. We're going to be mapping over this. We're going to be doing a tab ID, tab title, and then we're setting the content based off of this to do. So if I give this a refresh, we don't have any items right now, which is kind of interesting. We should set up store, set tabs. I'm a bit surprised that we don't have any items. Do we actually have to have it under value? I think we looked at this last time. I wasn't certain if we say value here is that required at the root. That link doesn't work. It's fine. We can work around it. Store clear get. So if we set Okay. Reset, save, set. Key and value. Value is unknown. Inserts a key value pair into the store. So we're, oh my goodness, kitty. We are giving it path key value, and there's no indication on what value is. So if we then look at the Rust side of things, oh my goodness, kitty, just chill your beans. Can you tell I have kids? Okay, see your butt. There. Okay. We'll go like this. The arm behind the back. So there's a serial, deserialize. Change payload value is just a JSON value. So if we do self cache get key is ref, this is going to return a JSON value. So is there anything that specifically says that it needs to be okay, so it's emitting, but it does specific it says value. This is mostly about actually emitting and working with, rather than think listening to. Yeah, so with store set get key has, so set store.insert key and value. It seems like we need, it. Here, let's try another test here. We're doing tabs from store. If we log this out, what does this look like? So we're going to give this a refresh. We are getting tabs. So is there never a store? Console.log store. Refresh. So we get a tabs, of which there's no items, and then store is null. And then it's just constantly set. Is it because we broke something in here is the question. We are doing in await, setup store, get tabs. We're still doing store, get tabs. Here, let's do this. There's a key and a value. Value is unknown. So if we say value, and items, What does that end up giving us? Store is null. And I'm not seeing that actually triggered again. Does async list take a way to refresh? Because I think that's part of the issue here is loading state items. So we only want to, if loading data failed, then this contains the error. Current sort. So how do we get it to like a refetch? Inserts, gets, sets, triggers, loads the next page of data, reloads the data in the list. So if it's doing a fetch, how do we know when to refetch? I guess is this on every, we would basically like want to re-render this whole thing. We are getting multiple renders though, right? Because we're seeing tabs. So this is logging out multiple times. So that is re-rendering multiple times, but this isn't actually loading multiple times, is it? Data can be reloaded by calling the reload method of the list. So if we are giving it to, there's nothing that like in use effect you can add the dependencies array. Oh, you have to, and that dictates when it refires. Oh, I went to the wrong one. So if we are using that, that is how we get it to re-render when store changes. But with this hook, there's nothing that is fits that type of API. So if we look at the components, where is it? Tabs, tag, menu. Tabs, here it is. Let's look at the I was to say props, but where are the props? Links, props, there's. So there's children, items. The currently selected, currently events, on selection change. So that's interesting. So we have store. I guess we could, rather than, I guess I kind of want the store. in context, of which when we have that, and we have this use async list, how do we trigger an update? It's almost like a polling kind of thing. It's too bad that there's no convenience function for this, because this feels like something that I mean, we can deal with it, but I'd rather not be, I guess. It looks like use async list is the only one that handles this type of fetching, though. Let's check out React Aria real quick. I'm curious. Is there any hooks sort of in the same vein? Use tab list. Is there any async loading type of use select, use switch? So a lot of these are like internal state type things. Drag and drop, focus, utilities. Okay. I don't see anything to actually get it to automatically reload. Reloading data. I mean, sure. A function that, why is there a star here? I'm a little bit curious about that, but function that loads the data for the list and item. Filter text, a function that returns a new key. Sorting. It does have an error state. Keys of the currently selected items in the list. Move, example. So within here, we have a load function, use async list. If no cursor is available, then we're loading the first page. Oh, okay, interesting. Interesting. Sorting, server side sorting. There's also this like get key and get method. I'm curious what the use case is for those. Like, should I be specifying a get key? Unknown. All right, so can we sort of like box this up? Because what's happening is we are doing use context. Use context then doesn't necessarily have the store instantiated yet. So, I mean, we could, in theory, do something like, it's not gonna like this, is it? Return div. Here, loading. And we can say if return, if there's no store, then do this. I mean, I guess. We really, I think we probably want to end up nesting this in a separate Missing layout, return. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like a separate component at that point, I guess. Ugh. So what we're trying to do is we want to render this only, or start rendering that only after we have the store available. In here we are doing, I mean, I suppose in theory we could say go like this. So if we say Tauri APIs dot store, I don't love it, but so now tabs store, tabs from store. There we go. And value is array items. So if we then go back to, setup is right here. I want to try getting rid of the value because I don't think I actually need that. There we go. So items, home. So now in this case, store should always be set. Store is possibly null. I mean, in theory, yes. But we're not actually going to render this component until we know that it is. Yeah, that's fine for right now. So when we load, we do this. When we're not going to bother dealing with like unchange methods. So this is going to give us the tabs. Now we have no data because we need to define the content. So let's open up this to-do. And this is a component that's returning a list view right now. We are giving it items because we had tied the items directly to that store. Not the case anymore. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to say it's not going to be items here. We want to do another list load. So we're going to say list ID equals, and it's going to be tab.id. Oh, there we go. So this is going to be list ID, and it is a string. So now we don't have any items because what we're going to do is say this. Whoop, wrong button again. I'm actually tempted to straight up switch that hotkey because on Mac it's one button, on Windows it's the other button. They're right next to each other. I always flip flop them. Always flip flop them. So this is going to be items. We are not pulling from the sure tab list. We don't have to worry about it at the moment. Store items. We're not pulling from this anymore, but instead we're going to do a data dot and this is going to be the list ID. So now this should return. Again, I mean, we're coming back to this. Okay, initial items. Get key, item.name. So we might need to do that. But I think we do want to save an ID in there. We're going to make a type. We're going to call it to do item. I guess ID of string and content message. So it's going to be return this or this. Actually, no, it is going to be type to do list is going to be to do item that. And can't remember if it expects it to be, yeah, like we've got this items. So I think we got something like this going on again. Is the expectation. So to do item is going to be within a to-do list. That should give us items, and then in which case we can then start piping in items here. So let's just do a refresh there. Clear. Save rather, not a refresh. Items. So we're not getting any items, which makes sense. And we also want to remove this. Just so we're not confusing ourselves. Props to items is not iterable. Makes sense. We also don't have any items. So items. And let's call this instead to do, because then this will be to do dot items. And this is going to be to do dot loading state. Refresh. So we're not going to have any items in there yet. This still does match up because we have an item and a content string. Each child in the list should have a unique key prop. Thought we solved for that. It's fine though. We'll come back to it. List view items. So there's no items in there. So if I guess it's an empty list then essentially. We can also provide an initial items, I guess. So let's do that just to make sure that we're actually getting something rendered here. Initial nope, never mind. Get key sort. Okay. So there isn't. If we don't have anything there, let's just do something. Default content, add something, please. So now, add something, please. No, we got to move this back over here, right? Y'all can't see this. Since we can't drag it. This refresh, though. I like that. The loading spinner. They just have it integrated. Nice. So now we have an item. We can check it off. What we want to then do is, if there's no items, we need to add an input so we can add items. And then we need to handle onChange so we can start saving that data back. If we do a refresh, this is coming in, I think, because of the state or as our default, and this is also setting a default. So we have tabs and tabs is top level right now. So we're going to have to do something like this and like this. We're going to throw an input in there to allow us to add it to spectrum. Search field, switch text field. A little form with validation. This is probably going to be pretty close to what we want. Contextual help, custom width, email. Actually, I think we're going to do this quiet. But in reality, what we want is this. So we're going to grab that. That's kind of funny. It's the documentation for text field, and it wasn't in the import list there. So we got our little input here. Label is going to be item. I don't think I need a type. Button submit. We're going to call it an add and clear. And we're going to call this in is quiet. Validation behavior native is fine. Max width is probably fine. So now, when we submit our form, we are importing form from React Spectrum. So we should be able to look at the props. Oh, there's a top level. That's kind of nice. Required read-only validation action. Where to send the form data when the form is submitted. So we can either do a string or form element action. And these are the transport methods. But what we really want to do is it's going to be something like an onSubmit. So I think we can jump straight to that and say on submit. In this case, what we're going to end up doing is adding an item to the list. So if we add an item to the list, we almost have to call it here because we want to operate on the to-do list. So we want to use this function as a way to append. So this has, I mean, I guess I could put that form within the content, tab content. That might just be the easiest way to go for right now. Yep, I think that's what we're going to do. Let's move that. I'm going to leave those fragments in there for the moment. We already have spectrum in here, I think, so we should be able to do a bunch of this. There we go. We're going to switch this to being is quiet because we're going to make it all quiet. And on submit is going to have a handler. So what we can do then is say, is there a to-do list? To-do dot to-do dot append. So that's going to append the item to the list. Get item insert. We can insert in a specific spot. I think we're going to stick with append though. And we need a value. So this gives us the form element. So we're going to have something like an event, I'm guessing here. Event. So the first step, we are going to eventually do this append. Let's just log this event for the moment. I want to make sure it looks like, I mean, the doc say it's a normal event, but let us test it out. It's doing the reload, so it's just doing the server. When you submit a form, it does a form to target. So we need to, when it does that, it has a built-in browser expectation to like refresh the page basically. So when we go to the form, is there a way to turn off that? Disabling whether user input is required on each form. Okay. The contents, validation behavior. So if we do action, the form, if we don't give it an action or give it an empty action, let's see, target load in the same browsing context. I don't think I want to do target. So there's method. Where's the docs for accept auto capitalize name action here? Can it be overridden by a form action attribute? This attribute is ignored when method dialog is set. When the form is inside a dialog, it closes the dialog and causes a submit event to be fired on submission. Okay. So in reality, if I take this off, I don't think it's actually going to submit. Cats are getting into something, I think. Do stuff here. Yeah. So if we take off the submit, we're not actually getting the on submit firing. We actually get the reload before that even happens. They do have the prevent default here. That seems to actually be the way to do it. Okay. I was wondering if you could do the prevent on default in the on submit. So if you haven't worked with React and their form APIs before, event returns this is built-in like browser event. It provides a method to prevent it from doing the default function, which is submitting and reloading. By calling that, I think then we'll get this log, because it's not going to do that whole server reload deal. Okay, so we get items, still have the default. And do we get a log? I don't see a log anywhere. Oh, we got to submit one, of course. There. So we're getting that, of which we should be able to then say, I think it's what, target. There's like a form content in here somewhere. Native events. I guess we do the value. So if we do like event dot target dot input. What is target? Target is an array. I don't know if I like this, but that should give us the value. There's it's a getter, right? I think that'll work actually, because then we should be able to do get item. Is it a getter? Does not exist in event target. What's event target? All the forms that I'm doing right now, I'm working with like 2 separate form libraries on various projects, and I haven't actually manually wired this up for a while. How are we doing on time? We'll go a little bit longer. I think we'll get this persisting at least. Let's get that far. I think that's probably going to be where we call it. And then we can do some cleanup and polish, and we can start using it next week likely. All right, so event, let's go to MDN. MDN form event target. All right, so add event listeners, event target. So we get an event. There's a target. All right, MDM form input data. Okay, we're gonna do the goal React form get data from event. I could have sworn that there's a better way to dot elements. Is it directly onto the name? That can't be, can it? Oh, okay. All right. I mean, sure. I shall deal with you later. So it's like the event to do item, I guess. Is that. So now, since we have the to do item, we can say if to do item to do dot append. And we need to insert the value, append items to the list. Can we just give it the text? We are going to find out. So this is what I'm interested with as far as, yeah. So we're gonna have to make it fit the shape of how we define things elsewhere. So ID is gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be, that was supposed to be shrug. fingers and brain didn't match up there. Okay, so we get that, and now if we do something else, it gets confused because there's already an item with that same ID, which makes sense. And if we refresh, we're not persisting that state, so that's not going to stick around. On submit, we're not getting the reset either. So there should be, so I'll go this event again. Is there like a reset stop persist? You're not gonna really help me out here, are you? With the docs, current target dot. So this would be the form. Get has remove. There's a reset. Okay. So if there is a to-do item, we're going to reset as well. That should then clear out this. So if we do something here and we do an add, that gets cleared. Now we got to deal with the ID. So for the moment, what we're going to do is we're going to say to-do item dot replace. We're going to look for all spaces and replace it with this. We can make this regex a little bit more robust, but that should be sufficient for the time being. Do we get a refresh? Oh, that was weird. Okay, so one of them worked. So 1, 2. Oh, okay. Also, why go away? Can I? Is there like an API to hide that? Autocomplete. Equals false. Nope. Let's look at the text field real quick. Is there, let's see, disabled, help text, contextual help, props. So I don't want that box to show up. And I know people have asked this before, and I don't recall, like in the Tauri Discord, I know people have asked about this before, but I don't recall what is that. What is the API that would turn that off? Input. Oh, this is just generic input. Okay. Attributes, auto capitalize. Hint for form autofill feature. Okay. Hidden, I think, is what we're looking for. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so if I do the same one, it does this, which is kind of interesting. Definitely kind of interesting. So now what we need is, let's see if we can get it persisting real quick here. We need to go to the hook API, use async list, methods. There is going to be appends items to the list. And load, get key sort. There's different states, filters, methods. Is there like a, I thought I saw like events or something like that. Updates. So these are all direct things that you would add. Sort, sets, keys, insert, prepend, remove. Okay, let's look at this one. And we could do this to get key is using this might be the way to go. Remove, move, update. I thought there was events. Was that in what are we're using like list view, right? List view. Drag and drop. So like if we look at here, use drag and drop. Get items, all right. Ah, hey, they got docs right here. Handy. Render empty state. Oh, this is, we might want to come back to that. Disabled keys, selection mode, default events. Ah, here we go. Okay. Was there an events on? No, I don't think so. The user performs an action on an item. The exact user. Okay. When the selection changes, unload more. None of those are particularly helpful. So if we go here, there wasn't anything. No. Essentially what we're looking for is anytime this changes, we want to then save the state. Save it back. We could potentially call it directly in that append. But it would be nice to just save it every time there's a change in any way, because then we don't need to wire that up for literally every situation. Spectrum, list view. Yeah, empty state. Should probably come back to that. Advanced accessibility, positioning, sizing. Events seem like the only handler that is called when a user performs an action on an item. Let's try it. Let's try adding that and seeing if we get any indication of changes. So it would be on action. Give that a refresh. So now if we click it at all, default is what we get. And if we add an item, we're just getting updated items? Or is it just the re-render? Oh. Clicking the action returns the value, the key. Okay. Loading state, render empty state, and drag and drop hooks. Disabled items, selection mode. How selection should be changed. I think I'm okay with that. Well, I was expecting to use the events. I am not seeing anything that is actually going to help us there, which is kind of unfortunate. Margin key. What is key? React. Unload more on selection change order overflow mode. Okay. So we've got around some of the little issues that we ran into. This is like both the upside and the downside of using component libraries. If you're doing it all custom, obviously you can put in there whatever you need to, as long as there is the support for it. It still seems like that's the I think that's the way to go. What we'll end up having to do then is here we're resetting. Then we effectively say we've appended it appears to be synchronous. So if we would say to do dot items, we can check. Do a refresh, add an item. So we get the items, doesn't include our new one. So what we would have to do would be, if we want to resave this back out to where we're going to do something like a store.set, that store.set needs to have this. And we need to then set the data back out, of which we are expecting it to be in the form of this. So we should say const store items equals to do dot items, and I guess basically this, right? We'll call this to do item text const to do item. I guess I can move that down. So to do item. We're going to append it here, and we're going to put it here, and then that and that. So now if we refresh, we have one item because we are loading. We don't have anything in here, so we are giving it the default. And now if we add one, that's going to show up there. Now when we refresh, we should only have the one. We don't have any. Oh, because that is async. We might have to try to handle the async somehow. Make a store. Yeah. Yeah, having everything async is definitely complicates things a little bit. Is it not saving it at all? It doesn't specifically say that there's an issue. Console.log store items. That makes sense. I'm giving it an array. I need to be giving it this. Interesting that I'm not seeing any error. Refresh. Add something. Refresh. It's not setting. So it gets the data. It should be in this form. Hopefully you can't hear the people mowing next door. Store items. Item. Items is an array. Items is an array. So this should be the this. So we're setting key and value unknown. Does it let you do this? String and whoop. Just out of curiosity. Why are you doing that? No, it doesn't take any args. That'd be kind of nice. I do kind of want to like come back and play around with the TypeScript a little bit in Tauri at some point. I think there's places that could be a little bit more ergonomic. So now we should be doing, we're setting it. We're getting it to do, it's re-rendering. We're doing it in append. I wonder if the append is triggering a re-render or something prior. Let's try this. Let's just, still nothing. Store.set. Sets and gets. We did a set in the, I guess it was in the setup. So we await setup store with the key and the value. There is value wait store.set. We should have the store context here, right? Store.path. It should be defined, and I'm not going to bother with TypeScript at the moment to enforce that, but so it appears to be it's possible the async might not actually be doing anything either. One last step. And this is why I wanted to handle it through an event or something, because coupling all of this just is sort of painful. All right, if we do, we've got an async load, we can do a use callback. Here, let's just do that right here. Const handle submit equals use callback. I'm feeling like we'll be able to copy and paste. API reference, API hooks, use callback. Okay, well, basically we end up getting this, right? Handle submit, use callback, expected 2 args. I got one. 2. Oh, there's dependencies, isn't there? Yep. Store. All right. Give that a refresh. Hopefully this works. If not, I think we're going to come back and deal with it next time. Nothing still. Let us remove. I don't want any items in there for the moment. So we're going to do this. Okay, give that a refresh. I'm resetting the store every time. That's why it's not saving it. Oh my. Add. Thing. Refresh. Ta-da. I'm kind of okay keeping that as a callback. And this should ensure that it it's set. Or help ensure that it's set. This is fine. I do wish that I didn't need to do this. If I could wire it up as an event, like there's a use async list anytime it changes, or anytime we get like an appended data. If we had some sort of hook or event, like if we can add an event listener or something to that, that would be perfect for this situation. But I am not seeing anything. I am not seeing anything, unfortunately. So the two components that we're using are, if I could find them, list view. list view has props, of which it does have some events, none of which end up being helpful for us. Potentially, if it did have props here, we could handle it. If the items change and it would fire off an event, that would probably work the best for us. And the other, it's kind of hard to do an event here. Interface, selected keys, methods. Like basically when we call an append, we also want to fire off another function. It feels weird to line that up with the it would be kind of cool to do it in this. Like if you had like a to-do dot add event or something, update loading state, or if you could do like add an event here, like an event listener there that basically, because there's the load, there's also the save though. So if you want the ability to like sync this list back and forth, having a way to do both the get and the put in the single interface, I think would be really, really slick. But this is what we're gonna have to do for right now. Let's get rid of this. We can give it a quick look-see again, and then that is where we're gonna call it for the day. We can't drag from the corner, which is kind of frustrating, but what can you do? And unfortunately, I gotta scroll in here, but we will deal. So what we did today, we rewired up the tabs in the list view to use the use async list hook from React Spectrum. This has a couple functions, one of which allows us to load the data, and then we can pass this directly into our list view component as items. A little bit of mapping. I don't know that we specifically need to do that mapping, but then from there, we added a little form right here where when you add an item, it adds it to this list view. And we're handling it through a use callback, doing two functions right now because we don't have a different API. We are calling both the to-do.append, which is one of the functions of this use async list, which is lovely. And then we're also saving it back to the store. And that store is part of the Tauri, one of the Tauri APIs, of which we have the plugin store. We set it up in this context, and this saves the state to the store.bin. So anytime we call that set, it's basically saving the state. So now we can do a refresh of the app and a reload, and it's going to save those items in the state. But right now it's actually, is it only saving the last one? Interesting. What did we goof up here? Whoop, go back. Store items, to-do.items, to-do item. I'm gonna give this a shot, give that a look-see real quick, and then I think we're gonna have to call it. It is just the one item. To-do.items should be this. So store items should be, oh. No, yeah, no, that's right. To do items, ID, content ID shouldn't be an issue. We are why is that? Refresh. Add items. What? Yeah, items. Items is empty. Because we've gotten the weird state now, I think. Let us clear this real quick. Refresh. Save. Refresh. Now, clean slate. Add. It's there. Add. It's there. Refresh. Still saving the last one. I don't know why the items is empty. Interesting. We're close. But I gotta get going. That's what we're gonna call it. I will see you all, I guess, next Tuesday. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll get this thing finished up and start using it on stream. It'll be fun to have a to-do list in which we can, at the beginning of the stream, basically lay out all the like couple items that we want to do and check them off as we go. I think that'll be good for the context, and gotta love those dopamine hits. First item, start the stream. Check. Cool. Have a great rest of the week. See you next Tuesday. Bye.